I saw her the moment I turned to refill my glass, a woman in a denim jacket and sun-faded dress, standing at the edge of the courtyard with a little boy clutching her leg. I hadn't seen her in years. Not since we ended things over a phone call neither of us had the guts to make in person. And now here she was, at my wedding, during cocktail hour, eyes locked on mine like a sniper, saying one sentence that shattered every plan I'd ever made. You should know who his dad is before you say, I do. I didn't drop the champagne flute. I didn't storm off. I just froze, completely and absolutely, as if my body had stepped out of time. The music kept playing. Guests kept laughing. But my world narrowed to the weight of that little boy's stare. He had my eyes. My damn eyes. And I knew right then, whether she was telling the whole truth or not, this wasn't some cheap stunt. This was something else. Something deeper. And whatever it was about to tear open a part of my past I thought I'd buried for good. Her name was Rachel. We were together for a year and a half in our early 20s. Fell fast. Fell stupid. She had a reckless smile, the kind that dares you to make a bad decision just to see what happens. And I did more than once. She left the day I told her I'd gotten a job offer across the country. Said she needed space. Said she couldn't follow someone else's life map again. That was 8 years ago. Now she was here. And the kid holding her hand looked like a ghost from a life I barely remembered. I walked over slowly, like my legs had to catch up to the rest of me. What the hell are you doing here? I asked, low, quiet. She didn't flinch. Just looked down at the boy, then back at me. His name's Micah, she said. He just turned 3. 3. Not 4. Not 5. 3. I did the math. And it lined up. Painfully. My stomach dropped. Why now? I asked. She didn't blink. Because you're about to marry someone who doesn't know the whole story. And neither do you. That's when I felt a hand on my shoulder. Claire. My bride. The woman I met 4 years ago in a hospital waiting room while we were both sitting with our fathers. Hers made it. Mine didn't. She cried with me. I laughed with her. And eventually we built something so steady and kinda didn't feel real at first. She was supposed to walk down the aisle in less than an hour. Now she was standing behind me, looking at Rachel and the boy, her eyes slowly narrowing like she was catching up to a scene she never auditioned for. What's going on? Claire asked. Rachel didn't hesitate. I'm just introducing Micah to his father. Claire looked at me. Not Rachel. Me. And I didn't have an answer. Because how could I? The world was still spinning. Just without me in it. I think you should go, Claire said to Rachel. But Rachel didn't move. And neither did the little boy. Because Rachel hadn't come to leave. She'd come to detonate. Claire pulled me aside. Tell me right now, is it true? I stared at her. I wanted to say no. God, I wanted to say it wasn't possible. But I couldn't. Claire, I said, barely above a whisper. I don't know. She stepped back. Her face cracked in a way I've never seen. Then I'm not walking down that aisle, she said. She turned and walked into the venue. And I stood there, in the middle of my own wedding reception, with a child who might be mine and a woman I once loved standing in my future like it belonged to her all along. Everything I thought was certain, wasn't? And that was just the beginning. I didn't follow Claire. I couldn't. My legs felt welded to the gravel. The sound of string quartet music floated faintly from the courtyard, mocking me with its cheer. I glanced back at Rachel. She was crouched next to the boy now, whispering something in his ear, one hand brushing his curls back the way a mother does when she's trying to keep the world from swallowing her child whole. Micah looked up at me. His eyes, they were mine. I'd seen them in the mirror every morning for 34 years. Still, I had to be sure. I cleared my throat and said the only thing I could. I want a test. Rachel stood up. Already did it. That knocked the wind out of me. What? I figured you'd want proof, she said. I didn't come here to beg for anything. Just brought the paperwork. She pulled an envelope from her bag, sealed, slightly bent at the corners like it had been carried for a while. We did one of those home DNA kits. Swabbed. Sent it off last week. I blinked. You already have the results? She nodded. They came yesterday. I didn't open them. I thought, we should do that together. And somehow, that small thing, her not opening it, broke me a little more than I expected. Because for all the wreckage, for all the years in silence and confusion, she still left space for me in the moment that mattered most. I need a minute, I said. She nodded. We'll be by the fountain. I walked back inside the venue, not to the bridal suite, but to the side hallway where the coat check used to be. It was quiet, dark, cold. I sank onto a bench, that envelope burning a hole in my hands. My brain wouldn't stop spinning. 3 years. 3 years of birthdays and bedtime stories and first steps and first words. And I hadn't been there for any of them. I wasn't there to hold him when he got a fever. I wasn't there to laugh when he made a mess of spaghetti on his high chair tray. I wasn't there to tape glow-in-the-dark stars to his ceiling or fall asleep with a toy truck digging into my ribs. And yet, if the test said what I thought it would say, I was his father. No amount of absence would erase that. The door creaked open. Claire. Her veil was off. Her lipstick smudged. She was holding a tissue, but not crying. She sat beside me and stared straight ahead. Not at the envelope. Not at me. Just into the dark. Is there anything you want to say? She asked. I nodded. Yeah. But the words stuck. Everything I could have said felt too small. Too late. Too theoretical. So I handed her the envelope instead. I haven't opened it. She looked down at it. Her hands didn't move. I didn't know, Claire. I swear to you. I didn't even know she was pregnant when she left. We were barely talking at that point. She was quiet, still staring into the dark. Part of me wants to scream, she said finally. To assume the worst. To walk away and not look back. A beat. But the other part, the part that knows you, really knows you, it believes you. That surprised me more than anything. You do. She nodded, just once. You're a good man, Nate. That's why this hurts. We sat like that for a long time. Just breathing. Just being. Then she stood. I need space, she said. I need to think about what this means. For us. For the vows we haven't said yet. I understood. And then she added something that caught me completely off guard. But if he's yours, I hope you don't run from that. She paused in the doorway. I know what it's like to grow up with a father who didn't show up, she whispered. Don't do that to him. No matter what happens with us. And then she was gone. I sat there another 10 minutes before walking out into the courtyard. Rachel was by the fountain. Micah was chasing a butterfly, laughing softly, completely oblivious to the emotional war happening just feet away. She saw me and said nothing. I nodded once, sat beside her on the stone ledge, and broke the seal on the envelope. 1 page. 1 number. 99.98%. I didn't speak. Just handed her the paper. She looked down. Let out a long, steady breath. Okay, she said. Now you know. I watched Micah. The way his curls bounced when he moved. The way his arms swung wide like he was always mid-adventure. There was something familiar in that. Something painful and beautiful. I want to know him, I said finally. I want to try. Rachel blinked, surprised. She didn't smile. Didn't cry. Just nodded. Then we'll figure it out. A beat. Together. I didn't answer. Because I didn't know yet. All I knew was my future had shifted. And so had his. And no one was walking down an aisle today. But maybe something else was beginning. I didn't go back to the party. Didn't make a speech. Didn't toast the guests or apologize or try to salvage the night. There wasn't anything to salvage. The band kept playing because no one told them to stop, and the caterers kept passing hors d'oeuvres to guests who were quietly texting loved ones back home. It was like watching a wedding unravel in slow motion, and no one knew who to blame, so they blamed the silence. I left her the back exit. Rachel followed, Micah in her arms now, half asleep against her shoulder. He'd burned off his toddler energy chasing bugs and giggling at tree shadows. Now he looked like peace, the kind you can only carry when the world hasn't touched you yet. We stood by her car. She fumbled for her keys but didn't open the door. I didn't come to hurt you, she said, staring at the hood like it might open up and swallow her. I know, I replied. And I meant it. People told me not to come, she added. Said it was selfish. Said I should wait until after. Let you have your moment. I didn't ask who people were. Probably friends. Maybe her sister. Maybe someone with a better grip on timing than morality. I shrugged. Why didn't you? She looked at me, eyes glassy but dry. Because for months, I told myself I had time. That there was no rush. That maybe it wasn't even yours. But when he started asking questions about his dad, I couldn't lie anymore. And then I saw that post, you and Claire, so happy, so close, and it hit me. I missed the window. I waited too long to do the right thing. And I was scared it would be too late to do it at all. I raised an eyebrow. Waited too long for what? To do the right thing. That stung more than I wanted to admit. Because whether I liked it or not, there was a version of this story where I never found out about Micah. Where she kept the secret. Where I raised someone else's child with someone else's name on the birth certificate while mine grew up calling another man daddy. And I wouldn't have known. Not unless she walked back into my life with the truth strapped to her hip like that. She shifted Micah to her other side. Do you want to see him tomorrow? She asked. Not for long. Just something small. I nodded. Yeah, I want that. She opened the car door, buckled him in, and paused before shutting it. Nate. Yeah. I didn't keep him from you because I was angry or spiteful. I didn't even know for sure until 6 months ago. I convinced myself it couldn't be yours. It just didn't seem possible. But then he started asking questions about his dad. And I looked at him and saw your eyes, and she stopped, pressed her lips together like the rest of the sentence hurt too much. I made a mess, she whispered, and I can't fix it. But I can stop making it worse. That was the closest thing to an apology I was going to get. She got in, started the engine, and drove off slow. And I stood there, alone, watching my son disappear into the dark. That word, son, it stuck in my throat like a song I didn't know the words to yet. The next morning, I called my dad's old friend, Reggie, the closest thing I had left to a father figure. Reggie owned a little mechanic shop in town, always smelled like coffee and metal, and had a way of saying hard truths like they were weather reports, not cruel, just inevitable. I told him everything. He didn't react the way I thought he would. No gasps. No dramatic advice. Just listened, then leaned back in his squeaky chair and said, well, life's fast. You blink and someone calls you dad. You blink again, and you're buying your kid their first pair of sneakers. I asked him what to do next. He gave me a look like I was asking how to breathe. You show up, he said. That's it. That's the job. You just keep showing up. Later that afternoon, Rachel brought Micah to the park by the library. Nothing dramatic. No expectations. He ran straight for the swings while she sat on a bench nearby, eyes watching but distant. I walked up slow. Hey, Micah, I said. He looked at me, tilted his head. You're the man from the big party. I smiled. Yeah, that's me. Why was the lady in the white dress mad? I didn't know how to answer that, so I said the only thing I could. She wasn't mad. She was surprised. He considered this. Surprises are okay if they have cake. And just like that, something softened. He let me push the swing. Not much talking. Just giggles when he went too high and scolded me like a tiny lawyer when I stopped too soon. I glanced at Rachel. She nodded. And for the first time, I felt it. Not the full weight of fatherhood, but the beginning of something sacred. A door cracking open. A chance. And yet, part of me still flinched. What if I got it wrong? What if I stepped in and messed this up worse? I wasn't ready. I hadn't prepared. And I had no idea what being a father even looked like outside of memory. But Micah didn't seem to care. He just held my hand. Like maybe I didn't need to know everything yet. Just show up. Later, when we left the park, he reached up and grabbed my hand. Didn't say anything. Didn't need to. He just held it. Like he knew something I didn't yet. Like maybe, just maybe, this story wasn't over. Claire didn't answer my texts. Not that day. Not the next. I didn't blame her. We'd been planning a life for 4 years. Built routines, inside jokes, a whole rhythm of love that felt like breathing, and now all of it was tangled up in a past she never asked to inherit. So I gave her space. But man, silence? It's a brutal thing. Makes your own thoughts louder than they should be. I kept hearing Micah's laugh in my head, wondering what he'd want for breakfast or whether he liked dinosaurs or trucks. I wondered if Claire was picturing him too, a life rerouted without her consent. On day 3, I got a message. Not from Claire. From Rachel. I need to talk. Alone. We met at a small diner halfway between our apartments. The kind of place with sticky menus and cracked leather booths that have heard too many stories. She was already there when I walked in, hands wrapped around a mug of tea she wasn't drinking. I told someone, she said before I'd even sat down. Told who what? She took a breath like she was diving into cold water. Micah's biological truth. My mom. I blinked. I thought she already knew. She thought he was from a rebound. Someone I met after you. I never corrected her. I let that settle. Why tell her now? Rachel finally looked at me. Because she asked me why I looked so haunted lately. And I couldn't lie to her anymore. She paused. Then added, she said I should have told you the moment I found out. That it was cruel not to. I nodded. She's not wrong. No, Rachel said softly. She's not. The waitress came by. I ordered coffee just to have something to hold. Rachel reached into her bag and pulled out a photo. Bent edges, faded light. Micah, age 2, in a Batman costume 2 sizes too big, posing next to a pumpkin he clearly didn't carve himself. I used to imagine what you'd say if you saw this, she said. sliding it across the table. Whether you'd laugh or cry or just sit really still like you always did when something overwhelmed you. I stared at that photo until my coffee went cold. Why didn't you reach out when you were sure? I asked, finally. I was scared, she said. Of everything. Of you rejecting him. Of you not rejecting him, but hating me. Of Micah getting to know you and losing you later. And I told myself, maybe it's better if he never knows. Maybe that's safer. But it's not better, I said. And it's not fair. Not to him. And not to me. She nodded. I know. I've been wrong about a lot of things. But not about him needing you. That part, that's crystal clear now. I looked down at the photo again. That little face, full of joy, blissfully unaware that the adults in his life were just now learning how to love properly. Rachel cleared her throat. There's something else. Of course there was. I kept more than just the truth, she said. I kept a letter. When you wrote me. Right before we broke up. I remembered that letter. Wrote it the night before she left. Folded it, sealed it, and left it on her kitchen table with her name on the front. I thought you threw it out. She shook her head. I couldn't. Not because I loved you not then, but because I needed to believe someone once meant everything they said, even if it wasn't enough to keep us together. She handed it over. I didn't open it. Not there. Some words belong to a younger version of you, and you've got to be real careful when you let him speak again. Instead, I asked her, what do you want now? Rachel didn't answer right away. She looked out the window, watching a young couple walk by pushing a stroller. I want Micah to have more than me, she said. That's it. I nodded. Then we'll figure that out. Joint custody. Schedule. Whatever it takes. She gave me a look, tired, relieved, honest. Thank you. As I walked out, the letter in my jacket pocket felt heavier than it should have. But I wasn't the same man who wrote it. And that meant I didn't have to be haunted by him either. That night, I parked in front of Claire's place. No call. No warning. Just me, standing outside in the dark with a head full of shame and a heart that still hadn't let her go. Her porch light flicked on. She opened the door slowly. Same hoodie she always wore on Sunday mornings. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Just her. And I loved her even more for not trying to dress up the moment. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said. I wasn't sure you'd open the door. We stood in silence for a second. Then she stepped aside, letting me in. Inside, the house smelled like eucalyptus and tea, calm, measured, hers. She gestured toward the couch but stayed standing. So, is he yours? I nodded. She sat down. I followed. I don't know what to do with this, she admitted. I love you. But I didn't sign up for this. I know, I said. And I won't ask you to. She looked up at me then, really looked. But you still love me, I said. And that's why I'm here. Claire didn't cry. She didn't smile either. She just said something I'll never forget. Do you think love can stretch enough to hold something like this? And all I could say was, I hope so. Because the truth was, I didn't know. Not yet. But I was finally willing to find out. 2 weeks passed. No wedding. No breakup. Just limbo. Claire and I didn't put labels on anything. We weren't together, exactly. But we weren't apart either. She called it pausing the script, not tearing out the pages, just setting the book down mid-chapter. I saw Micah every other day. Rachel and I agreed it was best to start slow, an hour here, a play date there. It wasn't co-parenting yet. It was more like auditioning for the role of dad in a show I didn't know I'd been cast in. And Micah? He made it easy. He'd run up to me like I'd always been there, like nothing in him doubted this new rhythm. One afternoon, he handed me a crayon drawing, a house with 2 stick figures in front. This is you and me, he said. But the house is small because we don't live together yet. I didn't cry in front of him. But when I got back to my apartment, the one still full of boxed wedding decor and RSVP cards, I sat on the floor, stared at that picture, and broke. Not from pain. From clarity. This boy was mine. Not just biologically. Not just on a certificate or a court order. But in that unspoken, sacred way where you'd step in front of anything to protect him, even your own fear. Still, the question that hung over everything was Claire. And every time I thought about calling her, I remembered that day outside the chapel, her dress perfect, her future mid-sentence, and how I hadn't been able to give her a clear answer. Because the truth is, when someone drops a kid into your life mid-sentence, you don't just rewrite the paragraph. You rewrite the story. Claire texted me first. Not a grand message. Just, dinner? Just us. Tomorrow. We met at a quiet Italian place on the edge of town. She was already seated when I arrived, same way she was the day I first met her at that hospital cafe. calm, composed, like someone who learned not to flinch at hard things. I sat across from her. She didn't waste time. Do you want to be with Rachel? That was the question, wasn't it? The one everyone else was too polite to ask. No, I said. I don't. And she doesn't want that either. Claire didn't react. Just cut her lasagna like she was waiting for the next piece. Do you want to be a father? Yes, I said without hesitation. More than I thought I could. She nodded, chewed slowly, then set her fork down and leaned forward. Then I need to know what version of your life I fit into now. That gutted me. Because for 4 years, she'd been the constant, the lighthouse. And now she was asking whether there was still room in the harbor. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the letter Rachel had returned to me, the one I wrote all those years ago, back when I didn't know how to keep love, only how to grieve it. I slid it across the table. Claire opened it. Read it slowly. She didn't cry. She smiled. A sad one. Then she folded it up and said, "You've always been this man. Even before you knew it." I looked at her. Really looked. Claire, I still want a life with you. Even with the mess. Even with Micah. She didn't answer right away. Then, I'm not saying yes. I'm not asking for yes, I said. I'm asking for maybe. She stood, took her purse. And right before she walked out the door, she turned and said, maybe one day. I want to meet him, she said. But not yet. Not until I know where I stand in all this. I nodded. I understood. But if that day comes, she added, you bring all of it. Not just the easy parts. That was her maybe. And it was more than I deserved. Sunday came. I dressed Micah in a little flannel shirt and combed his hair 3 times before he told me to stop making my head all itchy. We showed up to Claire's family home, the one with the blue shutters and the porch swing that always creaked on windy days. Her mother answered the door, smiled softly. So, this must be Micah. He hid behind my leg. Say hi, buddy, I whispered. He peeked out. Hi. Claire appeared in the doorway. No makeup. Hair down. Just a simple dress and bare feet. She knelt down. Hi, Micah, she said. I'm Claire. I've got waffles. Want one? He looked up at me. I nodded. He stepped forward, and the door opened wider. The 3 of us sat at that table for an hour. Then 2. Micah told Claire he liked dinosaurs, but only the nice ones, that he was going to be an astronaut, but only on the weekends, and that I made weird spaghetti. Claire laughed. And something in me, something I didn't know had been clenched for weeks, finally let go. As we walked to the car, Micah turned to me and said, is she gonna be my mommy? I froze. Claire heard it. She was a few steps behind. I crouched beside him. I don't know yet, but maybe one day. We're figuring it out. He nodded. Like that made perfect sense. Kids understand things we ruin with too many words. Claire walked up, placed a hand gently on his back, then looked at me. You're doing okay, she said. And that felt better than any vow I'd written. Because it was real. Earned. And maybe, just maybe, enough to build something new on. It's strange how quickly a life can shift from what was supposed to be into what is. A month ago, I was practicing my vows in the mirror, wondering if I could get through them without choking up. Now, I'm brushing dinosaur-shaped crumbs off the backseat of my car, learning how to pack fruit snacks and rehearse bedtime stories I didn't write, but somehow already know by heart. Claire didn't move back in. Not yet. But she started spending weekends with us. That's how she worded it. With us. Not with me. With us. She helped Micah build a blanket fort in the living room the first Saturday she stayed. I peeked in and saw him curled up beside her, watching her read. His hand in hers. Her voice soft but certain. The same voice she used to calm me when I'd spiral about work or wedding budgets or whether I'd ever be enough for the life we were trying to build. Now here she was, helping build something else, something neither of us expected, but both of us were learning to cherish. Rachel kept her distance, respectfully. We had an agreement. Shared weekends, 2 afternoons a week, and no surprises. She apologized again, in her own quiet way, by dropping off a scrapbook she'd made of Micah's early years. First smile. First shoes. A lock of hair from his first haircut. I sat with that book one night after Micah went to bed, my hand on the page, whispering I'm sorry for every birthday I missed. And yet, somehow, I didn't feel like an intruder in his life anymore. I felt like a beginning. Micah started calling me Dad one Sunday without warning. Just ran up to me after dinner and said, Dad, look. Holding up a picture he drew of 3 stick figures. One tall, one medium, one small. Claire smiled at me across the table. And that's when I knew. This wasn't what I planned. It wasn't what I prepared for. But maybe it was what I was made for. A few weeks later, Claire invited me to the old venue. Not to rebook, just to revisit. She said she needed to see it again. To stand there without the weight of what should have been. To decide if the version of her that got left at the edge of the aisle still lived there, or if she'd already walked past her. We went early. Just us. Micah stayed with Rachel. The place looked the same. White chairs. String lights. That hill where we were supposed to stand with our hands clasped and hearts open. Claire walked up first. I followed. At the top, she turned to me and said, "You remember what you were going to say?" I nodded. "Every word." "Say it," she said. "But say it to me now. Not the version of me you wrote it for back then. Say it to the woman standing in front of you today." I didn't need the paper. I just looked at her, at this fierce, patient, and perfect woman, and I said, "I promise to choose you. Even on the days when love doesn't feel like fireworks, but like folding laundry and missing sleep. I promise to make room, not just for your dreams, but for your doubt, your fears, your quiet. And I promise, if life ever throws us something we didn't ask for, I won't run. I'll stand beside you, hold the weight with you, and build something steady from whatever we're given." She stepped closer, then whispered, "Then let's build it. No rings, no altar, no applause. Just us. Two people who didn't get the wedding we planned, but maybe got the kind of love we actually needed. We didn't rush back into engaged. We didn't book a new date. We just started building. Sunday brunches. Zoo trips. A drawer at Claire's place with Micah's pajamas. One night, after Micah had fallen asleep between us on the couch, she leaned into my shoulder and said, "I think I'm falling in love with the three of us." And I whispered, "Me too." Not every story ends with a kiss at the altar. Some end with a child calling you dad for the first time. Some end with waffles and construction paper and a woman who forgave the parts of you still learning how to show up. And some, they don't end at all. They just begin again.